and welcome to our June episode of Bookies TV. I am Andrea Larson, and I'm joined by Becky King. We are both readers advisors at Cook Memorial Public Library District. I order a lot of the general fiction, the mysteries and thrillers, and Becky, you order.
In addition to the film and music collections, I actually order all of the audiobooks and both fiction and nonfiction. So
sounds good. So yeah, fun collections actually for both of us. We're lucky, very privileged to have the jobs that we do and get to see all these new titles coming in all the time. And so we wanted to share with you a few things that we've read recently, not necessarily new, but at least in my case, but some good reads as you are starting off with your summer reading. I'll make a quick pitch. Summer Reading Club at the library starts today. We're recording this on June 1st, so it starts today. So please, you can register online at home or come on into the library and see us at the reference desk. There are some great prizes this year. Our final grand prize is a drawing for $100 worth of gift cards to Trader Joe's and to Barbara's Bookstore. And there are 6 of those grand prizes at $100 each. So definitely it's worth a shot.
Good stuff, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get started with our books. Becky, do you want to go first and kick off with one of your titles?
Sure. One of the books I read actually is something that I have to say I wouldn't normally pick up. The only reason I read it was because the reviews were so good and it just sounded kind of intriguing. But the name of the book is Lucky Turtle, and it's by an author by the name of Bill Rohrbach. And it's about a 16-year-old named Sindra Zeller who gets sent to a reform camp, a girls' reform camp in rural Montana. She participated in a armed robbery and she gets sent there. It's called Camp Challenge, and to kind of straighten her out from the bad path that she was on. And while she's there, she becomes kind of enamored of a young man who's working on the property, and his name is Lucky. And they strike up a friendship, and I'm not going to give away too much, but something at the camp happens where they kind of need to get away quickly. So he rescues her and they take off into the Montana wilderness. He is part Crow from the Crow tribe and part Chinese. And with a little bit of help from his family, they're able to kind of hide out in this rural part of Montana in the foothills. And they kind of create their own sort of utopia. They fall in love, create this wonderful life together. They're, kind of survivalist at this point. And a lot of things happen. Obviously, they grow closer and they have a very special relationship. So I don't want to, like I said, I hate to give away too much because it is a love story, but it does have some tragic turns. There's a lot of drama in it as well. But it's kind of the story of like, if two people really are soulmates, will they be able to stay together if something bad happens to their relationship and things like that. And, as soon as I read love story and things like that, I'm kind of like, okay, I'll pick it up if I have time. But this one intrigued me just because of some of the reviews. And I really wasn't disappointed. I was really impressed with it. So Andre and I were talking earlier, and Kirkus Journal, which is one of the, I would say, tougher review journals, professional review journals, the last line of the review for this book said, "No greater reading pleasure to be had anywhere." And that's exactly why I picked it up. I'm like, okay, if Kirkus says it's that good, I'll give it a shot. And I really did enjoy it. It's, again, totally different than I would normally pick up. I loved it. It's a very beautifully written book. You can picture the setting that they're, living in, and the relationship really is really nice. So that's mine. And again, a pleasant surprise for me.
That sounds great. That actually sounds right up my alley. That sounds like the kind of book that I would pick up in a heartbeat.
It's very, like I said, you can picture the setting. Characters are very endearing. The relationship is very sweet.
Oh, neat. Well, and I love the title. And this is a kind of a tangential story, but when my daughter was very young, one year for, I don't know, Mother's Day maybe, she bought me a little Lucky Turtle.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's like a little, just one of those little tchotchke things, but that's what it was meant to be, was a lucky
Yeah.
turtle.
Okay, in
And
this case, Lucky is the guy's name, and
okay,
Turtle is his like given name from his tribe. So
got
yeah,
it.
I should have
Okay,
mentioned that, but yeah.
got it. All right. Well, either
I
way,
like the
it's
lucky
still,
turtle symbol too, though.
yeah, it's awesome. So, well, good. Okay, well, my first book anyway is going to be very different. Because mine is a mob story. um Sounds, completely polar
Yeah.
opposite. And it's called City on Fire by Don Winslow. And really, I think of this book as the godfather for our times. And it's set in the 1980s in Providence, Rhode Island. And a beautiful woman triggers a mob war between the Irish and the Italians. It's a 20th century version of the Helen of Troy story. And Winslow actually sprinkles the book with quotes from the Iliad. And so the reluctant hero in this story is a guy named Danny Ryan. So he's obviously from the Irish family. He wants to go straight. He wants to get out of the business, but he keeps getting pulled back in. And you also have the archetypal Italian patriarch figure in the book who keeps brokering the peace, or trying to anyways, between these groups. And you've got, some really impulsive guys on both sides. You've got the goons who aren't very smart. You've got all of these tropes kind of factoring in.
I feel like we should have the Godfather theme playing in the background.
I know, it's just, but what's interesting in this one is that there is a gay character in this story. So that makes it feel a little bit more fresh and a little bit more current. And Danny, our hero, is a smart, really sensitive guy, which also felt a little bit more modern to me as I was reading it. I don't know, I just thought this was a perfect mob story. So well written that the writing style is dead on. Winslow even writes using the grammar that the guys would use. And I mean, not just in the dialogue, I mean, literally in the writing of the story. And it's epic, it's tragic, you've got a sympathetic hero. It's so evocative. You feel like you're right there. Of course, it's gritty. There's a lot of people dying in it. So if you don't like that, don't read mom stories. And it just, I just felt like I was in the middle of all this fast-paced action. There was a lot of suspense too. Like I couldn't wait to find out what was going to happen. And the best thing for me, at least, is that this, like The Godfather, is the first in a trilogy. So there's more to come.
To look forward to, yeah.
Yeah. So,
his prior books had been a trilogy too about the Mexican drug cartels.
Yes.
Yeah. So looks like he's picking up a pattern.
Yeah, he is.
Those are really good too.
They are. I had read them. Those are excellent. And what's interesting about Winslow himself, you might have heard this, he announced that once this trilogy is published, he's retiring from writing and he wants to take an active role in progressive politics.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it didn't seem like he wanted to run for office, but more kind of behind the scenes activism kind of stuff. So isn't that interesting?
Let's hope it takes a while, maybe he'll change his mind by the time he finishes the other two. I don't mean not going to politics. I just mean because he's such a great writer.
Exactly. I know. Yeah. We'd hate to lose his great writing skills because he's so fun to read. But
I have to mention, my oldest son, that's his favorite author. He loves everything that he's written. So I already have that book set aside for a birthday gift coming up soon. So City on Fire.
Perfect. I love to hear it.
Yeah.
Yay. All right. So what do you have next?
You know what, for some reason, summer reading for me is a lot of times some suspense thrillers or psychological thrillers or something like that. So I recently read a book called The Lies I Tell, and it's by Julie Clark. And she wrote a book a couple of years ago that I really enjoyed also called The Last Flight. that was really successful. And so some of you out there may have read that one already too. And this one follows a totally different story, but also has the situation where you have two strong female characters. You're not sure what the motives are for each of them, kind of thing, and they're interacting together, and that's part of the suspense. And I always like it when there's two strong women at the center of a suspense novel. It's a little bit different. But in this case, we have a young woman who is just a brilliant con artist. And at the start of the book, we find out this con that she has just worked, and she's planning another one. And then on the other story is a young woman who's a journalist. She has a personal connection to this con artist because she kind of got caught up in the con the last time in a really terrible way. And so she's out to expose her. She's been tracking her for years. She finally, figures out, catches up with her, so to speak, and she's on to the fact that she's in the middle of another major con. And so she's determined to expose her and find out what she's up to. So she insinuates herself in the con woman's life. And the chapters alternate, so we get a little bit of backstory about the con artist, we get backstory about the journalist, we see how they meet, we see how they interact, and we're also seeing this long-term con play out. So it's suspenseful. It's like the characters are really well developed. You like both women, even though you don't trust either one of them, and you're really curious to see how this thing really turns out. And they're really trying to. The con artist really has a long-term plan of putting the screws to somebody who hurt her family in the past as well. So for her, this is the ultimate con, and there's a lot at stake. So again, a fast-paced book, very suspenseful, two great women at the center of it, and it was a lot of fun. Oh. I can see this one a movie. I think The Last Flight could easily be a movie as well, but I could see this one being, a movie or a little series or something like that.
Yeah, and this sounds like one of those where the characters are multi-layered. So this woman who you think is going to be really bad at the start of the book, you start to realize, oh, there's kind of a method to what she's doing, and there's some kind of a moral code going on there. And
that's exactly right. So it's like, can somebody really be all evil and somebody be all good? So there's a lot of interplay there, and yeah, it's good. There's a few twists along the way that are pretty entertaining. So
excellent. That sounds like a really good,
a good summer read for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
good porch read or beach read. Yeah,
right.
Those pages just turn. Excellent. All right. Well, my next one is it's less of a page turner, but it's more of an in-depth historical fiction book. And it's from a few years ago, and it's kind of under the radar, but really a gem, I think. I discovered it because we were considering it for our selection as One Book, One Community for next year. And it's called Song of a Captive Bird, and the author's name is Jasmine Darznik. And it's about a trailblazing female Iranian poet named Farug Farrokhzad. I hope I got that pronunciation right. Yeah. And so growing up in Tehran in the 1930s and 40s, she was taught that good girls were quiet and submissive, but she was kind of a rebellious child and she got in trouble a lot. She was married off at the age of 16 and moved to a provincial town in Iran to live with her husband and his family, but she felt completely isolated there and stifled, and so she turned to writing poetry to express her feelings. So eventually she does get her poetry published, and she moves back to Tehran, but it comes at a real cost to her because she ends up getting divorced and also losing custody of her only son. And so as her fame as a poet grows, also a lot of scandal grows around her because her poetry sort of pushes the boundaries of what is acceptable. Yeah, of what's acceptable for women to say and feel. Also, she has affairs with some well-known intellectuals of the time. And so she's in the newspapers. There's scandal about that. Eventually, she becomes a filmmaker and becomes known beyond the borders of Iran. And this book just makes her story so compelling. I mean, I just was really pulled in to this author's interpretation of her life. Farrokhzad is this strong, fierce character, and she's not afraid to speak out for what is right, and especially for the rights of women in Iran. She became a role model actually for lots of younger Iranian women.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got to say, the book is, gosh, it's really sad in parts, but it's also just incredibly inspiring. So this is
Sounds
a
like
great, a really moving book, a really good book for a book discussion, because there's so much in here. And she's, talk about an incredible woman that I had never heard of before. Probably most of us here in the US have not, unless we have knowledge of or ties to Iranian culture. So I'd highly recommend it.
It does sound like a great book for a book club.
Yeah. So anyhow, all right. Well, those are our books for all of you. Thank you for watching Bookies TV. Please do sign up for summer reading. Come visit us at the reference desk in the library or at the farmers market in Libertyville on Thursday mornings. So right. Yeah, we'll both be there. Not together, but over the course of this summer. Right. So, all right. Well, we'll see everyone there. Thank you, Becky.
Okay, take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.